And we are back. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Hi,
Everyone,
Keishawn.
hello. It's good to be back. It seems like so long ago that we sat down together, but it was just I
It's
think it's
only
having
been
the week off in between makes it seem like it was a long time ago. But yeah.
because we only do this once a week,
Mm-hmm.
so it can feel like that. So, speaking of which, we're going to do much better with our intros. Welcome to Black Her Story. I'm Kenya.
I'm Keyshawn. We did not
And
rehearse that.
we
It's
did not.
natural.
And we are happy to have you guys. If you're here in lifetime, say hello. Who are you? What's up? What's shaking? What has this week felt like? This has been an interesting week in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But just to remind everybody, we're here every Thursday night at this time. We go live, and we share stories. We share our personal stories regarding interesting topics that really, I think, impact us as women, in particular Black women, at this stage of life, at this midlife plus, whatever, 40, 50, whatever plus. But you can be any
Whatever the place this is that we're in. Yeah.
whatever place. And I'll just kind of say real quick what it is I do, and then I'll let Keyshawn explain what she does. And you see the topic scrolling through. You see it scrolling through. So we'll dig into it. I did have someone say, but suppose you're not an empty nester. Can you still come? I'm like, yes,
You
yes.
can still, yeah, definitely.
Because
Definitely.
you're still at this stage of life that's a now what.
I
So
know. Exactly,
so
especially when you're I mean, I would say, I don't know, we'll get into this more later when we get into the topic, but I think that for those who have children or you have been a caretaker of children, I don't know that your nest is ever really empty as it
okay.
is like a revolving door in some cases. So, yeah.
We're gonna get into it because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of interesting happenings with my teens. One in particular this past week. So we'll get more into that. But
Mhm.
again, I'm Kenya. I am a certified holistic coach, astrology and self care coach, educator, counselor, artist, all the things. My whole jam is just to help people be their best, be great. Be their best selves and use kind of holistic means to do that. So that's who I am. And, at the end, we usually share ways you can get in touch with us. And if you're interested in using our services and all that, we'll get into that at the end. But I'll pass the
Yeah.
mic and welcome. We've got our usuals. We've got Damio, we've got Daria, we've got Talisa, we've got Jacqueline Anderson.
Hello,
Welcome, welcome.
everyone.
So,
Yeah. I am Keyshawn Rains, and I am the Calm Coach. I am a wellness advocate, a certified peer support specialist, business consultant, and lifestyle coach. I work primarily with women over a certain age, I would say. I haven't quite pinned down exactly what age that is, but it seems to fluctuate. Grown women seem to be my
grown
primary
women.
clients.
I think we should
Yeah.
just say grown women.
Yeah,
We
work
work
with
with grown
grown
women.
women, individually as far as my individual clients, and I also work with small businesses and nonprofit organizations and help them develop programming that is insightful, that is centered around well-being and living as peacefully and calmly as possible. So that's what I do in my day job, and then I also am a parent, a partner, a sibling, a lot of things. So I wear a lot of hats as
Yes.
well, and this is just a chance. I like these conversations because I think each topic that we get into, I think it opens up ideas for like additional conversations to take place for those who are watching live, or if you come back and watch later. I think a lot of what we've covered so far just in the last couple of weeks that we've been doing this, even going back and kind of looking at some myself, I'm thinking, wow, we're really covering some important stuff. So I hope that everybody's getting something out of it.
Same. Ditto, ditto. Absolutely. I mean, it's so rare that we get to sit down kind of and talk about this amongst other Black friend or within our tribe. But I'm really glad, that we're here and we're doing it. And to Keyshawn's point, I too am a parent of two, hence this empty nesting topic. We're both approaching or in or whatever with this. And so, and I hear a lot of women that I work with and in the Facebook community that I have mentioned this kind of empty nesting thing. And
Mhm.
tis the season to talk, because there's graduations going on,
Yeah.
there's Mother's Day that's happening soon. So there's a lot of all of this fertilization, all of these surroundings of this whole concept of now what?
Yeah.
Because, we're celebrating our motherhood, but most of us grown women at this point who have children, we ain't got no babies no more.
Right.
Our babies are not. And those of you who do not have children, don't just turn the knob and say, oh, well, I don't need to listen to this. No, 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 no. Because again, we're all at this stage of life where career,
Mhm.
relationships, all of these things are changing. We just have the other extra additive of, no longer raising children, but there is still an energy of now what? I really do
Right.
think that, once you hit that, I would say 45, definitely the 50 point of the now what.
There's
So,
a shift. Yeah, and I think even for those, like you said, even for those who are parents who have adult children, there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's a bit of an understanding that even if your nest is empty of children temporarily, there's a likelihood, depending on the relationship you have with your children, but there's a likelihood that your nest might be full again, then it might be empty again, then it might be even fuller. Sometimes the nest gets filled with aging parents. Sometimes it there's different things that happen, I think, as we progress. And then there's folks who are recently retired. So
yes,
their nest might be full of them. They're home more often than they're used to. And they're wondering, okay, so now what? So I've raised
exactly.
the kid and I finished the career and now I've retired. And now what's next for me as a woman? What do I do with myself now? And what does that look like?
Exactly. So we're gonna dig in. We're gonna dig in. And before though we get into our topic, we always kind of do a current event or hot topic or something that's just going on right now in the moment. And then we'll dig a little bit more into kind of our stories, how we're navigating this. And obviously we want to hear from you. And if you are listening live, chime in when we start talking about stuff, and then talk to each other, talk amongst yourselves, what have you. This is just a nice, relaxed space. So, Keishan, do you have any hot topic for the week or anything that's just kind of been buzzing that you're like,
Mm. Speaking of buzzing, there's gnats everywhere all over America. Apparently, I thought it was just here in Long Beach. I thought it was just in my apartment. Then I thought maybe it's LA County, maybe it's Southern California, but I posted something about it on TikTok and on Instagram, and it turns out that there's gnats everywhere all over America. Some people say it's because of the rain. Some people say it's just climate change in general. Some people say that it's something seasonal, but they seem to have taken over. They've taken up residence. They are not interested in leaving, and we have no idea how the hell to get rid of them. So that's what's been
well,
buzzing around me for the
literally?
last two
Well, you
weeks.
guys had all that rain. Like
We did.
it's that's what's great to me. That's what
It has to
shifted
be.
the ecosystem with the gnats. Because gnats are all about the moisture. They all about the ooh, where it at. They're
Yeah,
kind of
and I've tried
cousins of
every
mosquitoes.
remedy. I've tried apple cider vinegar with dish soap. I got pennies hanging in a bag inside of a Ziploc bag that I read somewhere is supposed to, get rid of the gnats so the sun is going to shine through. Girl, I'm trying every possible remedy other than like toxic chemicals to get rid of them. I saw something that said I'm supposed to put Irish Spring soap in the doorways.
Oh
My
wow.
house smells like Irish Spring. I've got apple
It's
cider
it's
vinegar and
it's
I got
serious
bags of pennies.
effect. It's serious effect where you are. Okay, yeah, I think it's the rain you guys had.
It
You
has to
guys had
be.
a lot of moisture. So yeah. So
Yeah.
well, I haven't because I'm in cold Chicago that has one day of sun. And then although I'm not in Chicago right now, and I
Okay.
did hear that Chicago today did reach 70. I'm actually in Dallas. And I was on my walk, and yeah, I did have a gnat occasion. I did. I did have a gnat exposure and a mosquito exposure, but I'm also in hot Texas, and I think it was 80 something degrees. So
Yeah.
I just expect that. But that's not my hot topic for right now. But oh, Margot said, check your
Check your
plants.
plants. Yes, I did a whole
Yeah.
plant care routine this weekend. I took them all. Yes, I dug deep into my plants this week to make sure that there weren't any gnat families trying to take up residence there. They definitely seem to be coming from outside, and I also noticed that they're all over the property. So, like,
Ooh,
I
they're
was
gonna
in the
need to
business center today, they're down there.
they're gonna need
Uh,
to get probably some well, well, I was gonna say exterminator, like people to kind of because
it
yeah,
might be time.
it might be time.
Yeah.
Margot, you had a good comment about empty nester, and I'm gonna put that one up when we start digging in. I'm gonna say my hot topic first, but I definitely want the audience to see everyone to kind of see what you said because I think this is kind of the thing we want to unpack a bit. But
Yeah.
my hot topic, this week was May 1st was decision day. I had
Right.
my social media flooded with a lot of people whose kids announced what colleges and universities that they were planning to go to. And, it's become a really big, they didn't have no decision day, when we were in school. But, I know it is a very, very big deal and, rightfully so. I did say this, though, on an Instagram reel because
Mhm.
and this is where I'll get more vulnerable a little bit, and it will segue nicely into our empty nest. But I'm not a real. I went to Howard, HU.
Mhm.
I'm all about college. I got my master's degree. I took a very
Mhm.
traditional route to I guess getting going into my professional life originally, but I really am not a very traditional person at this point. And so, while everyone else was kind of announcing of their kids, I have one child in college who has decided officially, he's
Officially.
he's
Okay.
taking a break from college.
He's taking a
And
break.
so he
Okay.
literally told me that I think on decision day. So
That was
it
his
was
decision. He's like, "Decision day, I have decided to discontinue my college education as of today." Okay.
So it was an interesting feeling for me because, you know, I know what he's doing. He does need to do because he's onto something and he has started his
Mhm.
own, business and he's a creative and he's a
Yeah.
content maker and he's doing really well and it brings him joy and I see him working really hard.
Yeah.
And though this is a loss because I
Oh, yeah.
remember announcing my decision day as to when, he announced where he was going, which is
Right.
Xavier University, and how
Right.
proud and how, exuberant. And so it was just a very interesting juxtaposition to be in the position now that that was the
Right.
day that we officially talked to the advisors and everything and said, it's time to withdraw.
Yeah.
And so I really, and I know that, that's the experience I'm having with him, but I know I'm not alone. And I
Mhm.
know that not everyone's kid has decided to go on to choose college or for
Right.
whatever reason, it wasn't necessarily the hype or the thing that we see for decision day. So I just in my Instagram reel wanted to make sure, we also just understand because we can get so caught up in these things. And
Yeah.
as parents, we can get even more caught up than the kids on
Especially yeah, on, like, what they're I think sometimes as parents, we have children or children come into our lives, we're responsible for them. As soon as we're introduced to our children, and sometimes even before, for those who have carried children, we're already starting to build an identity for our kids. We're already starting to build expectations for what their future is going to look like. We're already starting to determine what direction we think they should go in before they are even born in some cases. So, throughout their early developmental stages, we're teaching them, how to talk, and they're learning how to walk, and then we eventually teach them how to read. We're still kind of carrying some of these expectations and ideas of who they're going to become. And then when they reach that stage of life where they're like, actually, nice to meet you. I am Seth. I have my own idea for my life. I have my own identity. And that's really cute that you had one, but this is who I actually am. And this is what I'm actually going to do. And
yeah,
there is, like you said, that moment of loss where we kind of let go a little bit of what our plans and dreams and ideas for our kids might be and really sit back and kind of witness them show us who they actually are, even if it's
Right.
totally different than what we expected.
Yeah, absolutely. You said that very eloquently. And I think that segues us nicely to the empty nest, because there's a lot of different things we have to start accepting.
Yeah.
And, I think there's like two sides of the coin. You have those parents who are like, get them out, go, 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 freedom. Yes, Jesus. And then there's the other side of the coin, like, oh my God, they're gone. Now what? Like, what to do with this? So I'm going to put up, Margot was very vulnerable in
Mhm.
our feed here. And so I want to show what she said to maybe kick us off.
Okay.
Empty nester, a little over halfway. I have 5 kids, 3 are gone. I'm sick. I don't know how to cook small. It's so quiet in the house.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm guessing my
So,
mom could probably relate to that. She has 5 kids too, Margot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Margot, I hear you. I mean, I think when you're so used to having the energy of children around,
Mm,
that energy, and that was the one thing that my mom, had said, that that's what was the weirdest thing for her, was literally not having the energy of
mm,
the kids, not, around.
mhm.
And I'm kind of in the halfway too. I have one son who's home, but he's my son that is home is 16 going on 38. He thinks he's grown, and he spends half the month with his father. So
Mhm.
I had to start kind of this empty nesting feeling. I really, when I got divorced, because they were teenagers, and the way we set up our custody was that we would split 50-50. So 50% of the month I had no kids, and then
Mhm.
the other time I do. And that, I felt like, when that started, and that's when the pandemic hit. It was a lot, and just
Yeah.
getting used to not managing them. So what's the now what? Like, what do we do with this? Calm
Yeah,
down.
it's interesting that we had similar experiences. I mean, I got divorced when my son was 4, almost 5, and so we had a custody agreement that was very similar to, like, week on, week off, 50-50. So I got conditioned in a sense to being without, like, him being away, him being with his dad. So when it was time for him to leave for college, I thought I was gonna have this big, like, "Oh my god, my child is away." And I was more so like, "Oh, he's in another state, so I have to fly to go see him? Okay, that's a little inconvenient." You know what I mean? But it was an adjustment, but I think what for me, the empty nest feeling, the now what felt less like, now what am I going to do with in his absence? And it felt more like, what can I fill my time with that
Mm,
I otherwise might not have had time for, might not have had the energy for. My kid is also a creative. And so when he was, in elementary through high school, he was super involved in kids' theater. So some kids take their kids to basketball practice. I was taking my kid to rehearsal 3, 4, 5 times a week, and then shows once or twice a month. And it was constantly moving and, managing his schedule. So once he went away to school, it was a realization for me where I discovered, oh, I have a lot of time now. Granted, the pandemic hit 6 months later and he was right back home. So it was like, "Oh, okay, well, so much for that emptiness.
right.
Here you are again. Okay, well, quarantine. Here we go." And then he went
Right.
back, and then it was like a year of consistency, and then it was like Hurricane Ida. "Oh, you're back again. Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
this is
our
kinda like
kids
it
are
was
both in
before.
New
You were really
Orleans.
gone."
Yeah, we came back.
So I
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I think, but I would say for me, the biggest shift was recognizing that as a mom, and as parents often do, we put the needs of our kids before our own. It sometimes happens very naturally, almost subconsciously, that when our children become adults and they go out into the world on their own, there's a part of us that becomes aware, sometimes for the very first time, just how much of ourselves we were giving to our
Absolutely.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that right there, I want us to kind of sit on and underscore is how much we lose who we are in the process of parenting, and how much society supports us losing who we are. And when I say support, meaning there's very little I mean, you're hearing more now, I'm a mom boss and I'm a boss, but kids are still always kind of woven in that I'm a mom boss, but just, can you just be a boss? Like, can you just be the Kenya, or, KEISEAN or Julie or
Mhm.
whatever? And I know for me, when so I had a very kind of, again, I went through the divorce, so that definitely pulled me into, but prior to my divorce, I recognized I had lost myself pretty
Mm.
badly when my kids were little. Like, I really felt, as a creative, as someone who really needs, creativity is it's my breath, like it's my
Yeah.
air, it's how I breathe. And so when I had my children and, really entering even my marriage, I gave up all the creative aspects of me.
Right.
I wasn't doing anything creatively at all. And when they were little, I literally had a breakdown.
Mm.
I felt, because I had given up me
Yeah.
really even before they came along. It was really marriage that I began to really give up me.
Yeah.
So I started investing in me when they were small.
Okay.
And I got back into my music career when they were young, so young that my youngest didn't really know me without being an artist. And so
Okay.
for me, being an artist wasn't just about, it wasn't, I know on the appearance, it felt like, oh, you sing now. But
Mhm.
really, being the artist was about feeding me. It was
Yeah.
healing me, because again, for me, the arts and music is way more about healing and self-expression,
Mhm.
and a way of even tapping into my feminine energy.
Mhm.
It was a very big part of that. So I didn't realize I was doing this, but I was pouring into these aspects of me when they were very young. And so they grew up watching me kind of pour into that. So
Yeah.
I didn't feel when they, yes, were with their dad halftime, or, as my son has gone off to college, it wasn't like, who is Kenya? I didn't have that experience.
Mhm.
It's been because I had been pouring into, because I had lost Kenya even before
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it was different. So my empty nest, where I'm at now, trying not to have guilt for being an artist touring when they were little.
Mhm. Mhm.
I toured a lot. I was gone. They don't articulate it as a problem, or what
Yeah.
have you. But then I look back, and now that my son is quitting college, it's like, oh, did I not, but it's like, no, he's a creative. He watched you
Yeah.
be a creative. He watched you build a business. He's building a
Yeah.
business. And it's like, oh. So I'm in a different, my now what is, how do I now expand more into these seeds that I planted, um,
Mm.
and grow into that, and change my identity of parenting,
Yeah. I can
because
see that. I can
yeah.
see that. Yeah, I think I had my son when I was 24, and I was getting divorced at 29, roughly 28, 29. So I had been married, had a kid, and getting divorced before I turned 30.
Oh, wow.
So by the
Yeah.
time I was in my early to mid 30s was when I really recognized that like traditional corporate America was not that girl for me. And I needed to try to find another way to be able to sustain myself, build a business, etc. And so I started my company my son was probably around 9, roughly, maybe like 9, 8 or 9 years old. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not going to work a traditional job anymore. I'm going to pursue this other avenue of entrepreneurship. And it's got a lot of peaks and pitfalls, and there's a lot of challenges that come with it. But this is going to be the way that I do things because I recognize that being divorced, a single parent in my household, co-parenting, but a single parent in my household, I was hiring other people to pick my son up from school. I was, getting extra support so that I could work all the time. And I was thinking to myself, I already only see you every other week as it is. So at least during the times when you're here, I want to be here and be available. And so starting a business that would allow me some flexibility to be there when he came home from school, to show up for all those rehearsals and the plays and everything, I think was really imperative so that I could pour into him while I was building something of my own. And it's interesting because when he decided that he wanted to go to college, because I went to college, his dad went to college, neither of us finished. And
Mm.
so he my son expressed his own interest and said, I want to go to school and I want to go to an HBCU. And he didn't have the easiest time in
Mm,
elementary and high school. So it was a really big decision for him to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this thing.
mm,
And knowing that, he went in knowing I'm a creative. I'm going to pursue a career that's in a creative industry. I'm going to be an entrepreneur as well. I just want this experience. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
cool. So I
yeah,
think had myself and his dad actually not demonstrated entrepreneurship to him as an option when he was a kid, it might not be as tangible or relatable or even like realistic for him. So I think, like, to your point, the fact that you pursued your creative, endeavors when your children were young, it showed them what's possible. That
right,
yes, you can develop a career as a creative, or you can develop a career as an academic, or you can develop a career as a physician, or you can like, there's so many options. I think what happens also when our nests are emptied or transitioning, that we kind of start to look back at, okay, what did I do really really well, what would I maybe have done differently, and then what can I do now that kind of changes course. And I think when it happens when you're in your mid 40s, sometimes it feels like a midlife moment where it's like, okay, so I'm 45, now what? My nest is a little bigger, maybe a little bit. Now what? It's almost like, I don't know, for me, it feels very like emotionally charged to look at what's next. What can I do in the next 30 years, the next 20 years, the next 10, the next 5, and know that I've played a really great role as a parent who's raised a child into adulthood. Now, what's going to open up for me? Now, what's possible is what
yeah,
I'm starting to recognize.
yeah, yeah. And it's twofold. I mean, I really, I think the now what is you also, okay, you have to change your relationship with your kids.
Yeah.
You can no longer be the mom making the snacks, but like you, it's now shifting into, dare I say, I don't want to say friendship per se, but kind of like guiding. It can't be like how we understand parenting when they're really small. Like we have to now shift into a different level of parenting and being, you know, more of a guide and a resource to our kids. And so that is a part of the now what is changing. How do I change this relationship I have with my child so that they are learning how to be adults, how to be productive, how to be on their own, and learning it in a way that's not me telling, but letting them do and then becoming kind of the resource on the
Mhm.
outside. So that's a part to me also. And then this part of self. So listen, I wish I could say, girl, just go blah blah blah. It's some heavy lifting. I
Yeah.
think to really, if you have made your children not only your first but only priority, or you really have tapped out of your needs and your emotions and your wants and your desires and your
Mhm.
dreams, and have done what you needed to do to just make sure the family and the children are okay, and done jobs to keep the financial whatever, now letting them go, and which with the whole goal is let the birdie fly,
Mhm.
just let them go, and learning how to now be more of you. I just, I mean, I don't think it's really possible to just one day and now I'm me. Like it is heavy lifting.
Yeah, I think
It
so,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
It
And
takes some
I,
time. It takes
oh
some
my
time,
gosh.
especially if you like, I only have 1 child, but I'm the oldest of 5 children. So, I can imagine, like, for my mom, and there's, like, 15 years age difference between the oldest child and the
Wow.
youngest child.
Wow.
So, while a couple were out of the nest, there was a couple that were still in the nest, and now that we're all adults, one thing, and I tell, my son this often, and I tell, my partner too, I consider myself super privileged to have parents who've always had the door open to their children. That if we needed to return to the nest to rebuild, to mend, to kind of dust ourselves off because the world just kicked us around a little bit too much, the door was always open. Whereas I know for some, that's not the case. Like you said earlier, for some, that 18th birthday hits and that nest is actually relocated. We have moved. We don't even live where the nest is gone. We have dismantled the nest. There is
Well,
a no return policy.
this is kind of the now what too. It's like, okay, I want to move, I want to downsize, but then what happens when my kids come back home? Do I want them, but I want them to feel like home again. I want them to feel like they did, come back to their child space.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I do think, that nostalgia is a piece of, yes, a kid, coming back to their home, obviously. But that is another factor. Now, I will say, I have been the parent. You go. You need to go. Like, you need to go, which is kind of and in my oldest son, we have learned that we do so much better. We do so much better with him away.
When you're
no,
okay.
Listen.
Yeah,
I have my oldest son is a fiery warrior. Like he was a tough kid. We boxed a lot, with him, and we're very close. This is what's so interesting. We're very close. Yeah. And like now it's been really cool because we've we've worked through a lot. I had to learn a ton about myself. Like to a certain degree, I think our kids raise us if we allow. I mean, there's a certain level that they're constantly trying to teach us. And my oldest son really propelled me. I had some deep work I needed to do on myself. Mm-hmm. I was quite, I think, delusional going into motherhood and being a wife. I was not tapped in at all. And my son's, his energy, his soul, really, the work I had to do to help him really ultimately meant I had to help me. Yeah. And so now we really, I'm like, I know you stopped at school, but you got to stay in New Orleans. And he's like, I want to stay in New Orleans. And I was like, we'll figure it out financially. Jesus, give us the
Jesus be an ATM. We will make it.
Jesus be the ATM, because we both know, like, he's gonna come home for the summer. That's fine, of course, a couple months, what have you. But no, baby, we do better. Now, my youngest one's gonna be a little harder for me because that's my baby boy, and it's still a little hard. He's with his dad half the month, and at first that was very hard for me because he was, he's a very much like, Mom, check in, how you doing, Mom, how you doing? And now, he got his driver's license, he got his girlfriend, he's, and I'm like, do you love me anymore?
Do I still matter?
Do I still matter? We had to have that talk, and he's like, Mom, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm tripping, like, so
it's an adjustment. It is an adjustment. I mean, I remember when my son was younger and he first, before he started driving, we live in a city, and he's like, well, my friends ride the bus, I want to ride the bus. And I'm like, do you want me to drive you to the bus stop? He's like, absolutely not. My kid is very independent. And I realized that I'm also very independent, and autonomy is really important to me. So I raised him to be super independent. And so since he's been away at school, there's times where I'm like, okay, so we missed that Sunday check-in call. I guess everything's okay, right? And I try to be subtle because I love my mother. My mother is a bit of a helicopter mom. She always has been. And so I really vowed not to be that. And I can feel when the little helicopter chopper blades start going, I'm like, just stop it, KEISEAN. He's going to call you. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So now that he's finishing school and he's not planning on staying down in New Orleans, he is planning on, pursuing a career in film, either being Los Angeles or Long Beach being his hub, or, out of Dallas. And so it's a trip because he's feeling like, okay, so I got to decide between my dad or my mom, which is going to be better. And I'm like, well, you could also get a job and not live with either of us. That is also an option, sir. I support whichever one you decide to go with, because I do believe that it is, like you said, our responsibility to really prepare our children for adulthood. And I tell people this all the time, especially new parents, where they're like, my baby. And I'm like, you do realize that your child is going to be an adult for the majority of their life. Right?
The majority. They're only with us 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
That's not very much time when you live in 80. Like,
no,
that's
or 90 years. No.
Not even a quarter of the time.
No. So prepare them for that. And and I get it. Some people. I was the weird mom. I was the mom who's like, oh my gosh, you let him ride the bus, girl. Yes, he'll be fine. He knows how to get home. Also,
Yes,
technology. Like we can keep up with each other. But I think that if you don't encourage your children to leave the nest, then sometimes it can impede their growth. It can really hold them back, or they
yes,
they feel guilty for leaving
yes.
because it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm leaving mom. What's she going to do without me? I will be fine and fine. Don't you worry about me. I'll be great.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me a chance to miss you. How about that?
It's funny, and kind of, and I do want us. People are having some good conversation and
Yeah.
talking in the chat. So make sure you guys are looking in the chat. And I do want to talk kind of about what are now what's like more specific. But I'll say this also about my son. My youngest son is definitely more the mommy that, but he's more like he cooks and he knows how to like set up his furniture and stuff. Where my
Mhm.
oldest is more of the bank account, the business. Like he was just showing me, he's been working on making sure his credit score is high by the time he's 21. So
Oh,
he
that's
has worked on it. He was showing me his score. He has texted me his score, and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, that's like dope. And but then he calls me like, so I don't know how to cook anything. So I got to learn how to cook a piece of chicken. And so he was showing me like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. He's like, this summer though, when I'm home, don't cook anything for me. He's like, I
okay.
really, because I'm going to be living, this is no school, me working on my career. I got to
Mhm.
know how to at least cook my meals. Like I can't
Yeah.
just do DoorDash for the rest of my life. And I'm
Right.
like, yes.
Good.
So that's is again, just again looking at me more as a resource, not to tell him, not mommy, what do I do now? More like this
Mhm.
is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, support. So that's been really cool to watch that. And my youngest, he goes to the grocery store, shops, gets what he needs to do,
And go
cooks.
get
Like
That's good. I mean,
he's yeah,
I didn't really give Seth a choice. I was like, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna learn how to grocery shop and we're gonna learn how to cook because there's just the two of us. And I'm not
right.
always gonna cook every single day. And there's things that I want you to know. And I think when they have those skills, it's empowering for them as well. It does give them a sense
Absolutely.
of freedom to say, like, I can do this. And even if I only cook three things, that's fine.
That's
You can just
fine.
rotate those three items, interchange them here and there, and you're good to go. And like you said, I think when we think about, for me, my now what, of course I had ideas, like I was saying earlier, I had ideas of what I thought I was going to be doing when
Mhm.
my son finished high school or when he finished college. And one of the things that he will never let me forget is when he was young, him talking about, getting ready to graduate from high school and me saying, yeah, son, when you graduate from high school, I'm moving to Italy. And he was like, but what about your grandchildren? I was like, I don't have any right now, and I hope not to have any when you graduate from high school. And I
Yes.
said, well, I guess I'll be coming to visit them from Italy. And I share that because a big part of my now what has been massive travel, movement, being able to explore other places. And to your point earlier, yes, there is that little voice in the back of my head that says, well, I want to make sure wherever I land, there's room for my son should he need it. And I'm also with my therapist working through the possibility that that's okay if the only room I have for him is an extra bed or a hammock or
Yeah.
a pull-out couch. It doesn't have to be a whole separate area for him. It's just a matter of him knowing if I call this space home, you can call it home too. It might be a cottage on the beach or it might be a downtown apartment. I don't know.
Yes.
It might be in Mexico or it might be in California. So,
I'm preparing my kids too. I mean, they know mom's like not trying to be in Chicago, like for real, for real. And so we have very candid conversations. So I do think, just, a word of advice, again, your kids are not babies. We don't have to hide things from them. Talk to them. They're learning how to have these more mature, connected conversations. No, you don't have to dip all your business and inside. You're still mom, you still are in a different role, with them. But, I think we have to, really shift our mindset around who our, children are becoming and
yeah.
really allowing, let them know, get an in on your dreams. I wish I'm watching my mom struggle horribly. She has struggled
Mm,
really, I'm 50. as she has struggled since I graduated. She retired the same summer I graduated from college. And that was kind of her gift to herself to say, okay, I'm free. She knew Kenya was gone. Like Kenya wasn't even thinking about going back to Denver. Like that was nowhere near my,
Mhm.
whatever. So she knew I wasn't going to be coming back, but she didn't plan. She didn't think
Mhm.
about it. She has struggled with that, honestly, her entire who is she?
Mm.
I've watched her, and it's very painful. I'm gonna be
Mm.
real transparent to watch
Mhm.
this and to watch her struggle so badly with, even now in her 80s, really
Yeah.
wanting to understand and knowing how to live at
Yeah.
this point, really knowing how to live. And this is something I heard Ayanla say this, and I was like, yes, yes. I mean, Ayanla, that needs to
She
be
was
my
saying stuff.
featured. She has a podcast called The R Spot, and it's outstanding. I highly recommend people, because all she talks about is relationships, and she coaches people in live time.
Okay.
But one of the things she was talking about, and I don't know if I want to say trigger warning or whatever, but when it comes to suicide, she was like, it's not
Mhm.
that people want to die, it's that people don't know how to live.
Mm.
People don't know how to live. And
Yeah.
so because they don't know how to live, they make decisions to stop that, because they don't know
Yeah.
how to live. Most people they don't want to die. They just don't
Yeah.
want to keep feeling the way they feel. And
Right.
so I do think that learning how to live is the
Mhm.
now what? How
Mm.
do we
Mhm.
live? How do we now live our lives, the life that is in us?
Yeah.
It didn't just poof, the magic dragon go away. It's
Yeah.
there. It's a seed that we've either watered or not.
Yeah.
So, we got to
That makes
start
sense.
watering.
You do, and I think a lot of I remember, I mean, this was years ago, so before the red table talks that we all got to know and love on Facebook before they kinda went
They're
away,
canceling it.
there
Yeah,
was
they
there
officially.
was one episode that was on YouTube, and this was years before it was ever on Facebook. It was one episode that
Mm,
was on YouTube, and it was the same, Willow, Gammy, and Jada, and they were having a conversation specifically about motherhood and about how when, Jada's mom, who's in her 60s, when she was raising, a child, there was the expectation that now that you have this child, your life becomes secondary to your child. And so for women who had multiple children at that time, with each child, they got lower and lower and lower on the totem pole of importance in their own lives,
mm, yep.
which is so bizarre to think about. So I think about the same with my mom. She has 5 children, and I imagine how far down the totem pole of her life she put herself after her husband, after her children, after, to the point where when the time comes for all of her children to be adults and leave the nest, who is she without being somebody's mother or without being somebody's wife, for that matter? Because I know another empty nest that sometimes don't people don't think about is those who have spouses that they've spent a
Yes.
lifetime with, and their
Yes.
spouse transitions, and now their nest is not only empty of children, but it's
Yes.
empty of a partner as well. And
Yes.
sometimes that question of identity of who am I now without being someone's partner? Who am I now if I'm not just someone's mother? And so I think, like you said, Kenya, I think it's so important for women in particular, because I think we're naturally, or we've been conditioned to be nurturers. And so when there's no one around in our home for us to nurture, it's not automatic that we turn that nurturing energy inward. And I think that's something that we can start to introduce, because if we don't start nurturing ourselves first, our ability to nurture others is going to be diminished more and more and more over time. And the quality of that nurturing is going to be diminished as well. So it's kind of the can't pour from an empty cup,
Yeah.
analogy that we've heard hundreds of times. But this is really, I think, what happens when women don't put themselves first. Their health suffers, their relationships suffer, their communication shifts, all these things start to happen, and sometimes they don't notice how bad it is until their
Oh,
nest is empty.
yes. And so you said a bunch of things, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. What you said about the partnering piece, because this is a reality too. We're entering an age, I have a number of friends who are now widowed. My partner, who I'm with now, he is widowed. He did not have children, but he was in a 20-year marriage, and his wife is deceased, and so no, there was this empty space of 20 years is a long time to be with someone in partnership. And you know us being in our relationship, and we have a very transparent, we talk about a lot because we both were in 20-year marriages, but just
Mhm.
they ended in very different ways, but still a lot of healing, a lot of grief, a lot of loss, a lot of rebuilding, a lot of that. And to your point, while he is a male, he still, all of us have feminine, masculine energy. So,
Yeah.
he did a lot of nurturing of his spouse, particularly, she passed away of cancer. So there was a lot of
Mm.
nurturing that he had to do. And the loss of self,
Yeah.
even for him, was huge. And so now he's in this space of negotiating and rebuilding self. And,
Mm.
so this, men do also experience this. I know as women,
Mhm.
we're here to tell our Black her stories, but, our partnerships, there's another element.
Yeah.
Those who are single and never been married, and so their children, if they had children and single parenting that whole time, to your
Mhm.
point, you have that element. Then you
Yeah.
have those who go through divorce. There's that element. There's just so many elements to the now what, and what you were saying as far as the nurturing self.
Mhm.
That is not instinctual, really. I don't think we've been conditioned out of that. I think it
We have.
actually very, when we get to the ancient understanding of goddess energy and who we are, please, that was all about that.
That's
But
right.
we got merged into this very patriarchal space that made us, conditioned us to put self over here to cater to these patriarchal ways. And
Mhm.
now I do believe, literally, we are watching things do this now.
Yes, we
And,
are.
while women, we can be like, we're empowered, but it's like, but wait, do you know who you really are? Do you
Yeah.
really, have you really tapped in, and it's
Right.
like, I'm empowered to be who? To be
It's
why?
like I'm empowered. Why was I disempowered? Where did that come from? What power, like reclaiming your power? When did you give it away? Do you know who you gave it to? Why did you give it to him in the first place? Were you taught to give it away? Yeah. It's a journey. It's a journey. And I think sometimes those are the kinds of questions or reflective thoughts that we have when we have time to ourselves. For some women, especially those who have children, I'm sure you can relate to, depending on the age of your children, sometimes the only time that you get to be alone is in the bathroom. That
Hmm.
might be the only place that your children won't go. And those few little stolen moments that you have just to be with yourself and your own thoughts might be the only time that you even ask yourself questions of, do I feel empowered? When did I give away my power? Who did I give it to? And how do I reclaim it, until your nest is empty? And then at that point, you're facing, well, shit, how long ago did I give away my, can I
Right.
get
Because
it back?
we would be
Is it
like,
worth
damn, this
it
was,
now?
yes.
Yeah,
And it's okay to go through that damn.
it
I
is.
just
Yeah.
I just want to also encourage all of us, feel what you feel. It is fine to feel disappointed, to feel disoriented, to feel lost. Like, we have to learn to feel that. That's so important, because our feelings are our informers. They're informing us, they're teaching. And when we attempt to get ourselves busied up, or we completely numb and start absorbing in things that have nothing to do with us at all,
Yeah.
then we're not experiencing us.
Yeah.
And yes, there are a lot of layers. I mean, this is why I'm so passionate right now about doing the astrology, because
Mhm.
it's really, the more I'm meeting with people, the more they're remembering themselves, the more they're like, oh yeah, these are my gifts. Oh,
Yeah.
this is my challenge. This is really fucked up right here. Like, I
Yeah.
don't like this. This isn't good. And it's like, right. So, what can we do
Right.
to shift that? Not to perfect it or fix it, but to have a different experience in it. And
Right.
so, allowing ourselves to really tap in to our feelings.
Mhm.
This is a part of the now what. And those of you, because I promise my, people, if they don't have kids, a lot of times we've tied, if you don't have kids or you're not partnered or having that same experience, a lot of times we've tied our identity on our work. Um,
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
And so learning how to unravel that, and you were married to work, or your work
That's
was your
right.
baby. So
Yep.
now how do you begin to shift so that that isn't part, that can still be a part of your life, obviously,
Yeah.
but not your total self, so that you're making room to grow beyond that job,
Right.
or to grow beyond, if you're single. I have a lot of friends who've never been married, never
Mhm.
had children.
Mhm.
And so I've never been in that space. So, what is there now? What look, I'm not in that position, but I encourage you still. I bet you there's something you've tied your identity to. A lot of times it's work or this
Mhm.
idea of career or whatever.
Yep.
Who are you? Because 9 times out of 10, there's nothing in our society, to me, that really pushes women to find themselves
No.
at young
It's
age.
it and in some cases, it seems like it's almost discouraged for us to even explore, and if we do, then, "Oh, she must be going through something. She's trying to find herself," and it's like, "Yes, I'm going through something. It's called my identity. I want to discover who the hell I am outside of what society has told me that I'm supposed to be, so give me a moment while I go explore." Yeah, absolutely, and I think the empty nest experience and the now what question, I think, is universal for women and for men as well. But I think for women, especially those who did choose a career first and maybe family second, or chose career always, and that's the direction that they want to go in. And then maybe there's a loss as far as work is concerned, or there's a shift or a transition. So I know for some, any sort of, I guess, like disruption to your normal can put you in the now what space.
Yes,
Any
exactly.
change, especially
Exactly.
a rapid change, can put you in a now what space. And I think that there's a grieving process sometimes that comes with that too. And I think that's natural for people to feel as you're starting to explore and re-identify yourself.
Yeah. We could do tagline. We could be divorced. Now what? Widowed.
Hey,
Now what? Loss of
lost your
job. Now
job.
what?
Now what?
Like,
Hmm.
it's,
Yep,
I mean,
we sure
all of
could.
that,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that. And a lot of that is happening. This is kind of the cycles of life. When
Yeah.
we hit this 40 plus, this is when those losses start to happen.
Yeah.
And so, or that become a bit more apparent.
Yeah.
And so the now what, to me, is very spiritual. And I
Yeah.
think if you begin to look at it as that, and not as a doomsday, but as
Mm-hmm.
actually a gift that
Mm-hmm.
spirit and God is attempting to present you, the
Mm-hmm.
now what is, you've raised your children. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You partnered as much as whatever. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You've built this career. Congratulations. So all of those things involved probably other people. So now we're
Mm-hmm.
gifting you. You have these years of wisdom, years of experience, years of loss, years of wins, years of all of that. So now the now what is actually gifting you now the space to begin to be the you that
Mm.
a lot of times has just been kind of perched. And
Yeah.
if you can begin to shift the minds, I mean, this is what I have done, is
Mhm.
like, I need to understand that my kids are fine.
Yeah.
And if they're not, that's okay too. They're going to figure it out.
They're
Because
gonna
you think
figure it
about
out.
your 20, think about when you were, the sky was falling every day. What? The
Girl, a
relationship?
lot. A lot of skies were falling and a lot of foolishness was going on as well. So, yes, it was,
And
yeah,
did we tell mom? No,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
no.
And sometimes it's thoughts like that that I'm like, "Oh, shit. There's a lot of things I never told my mom, so what the hell's going on with my kid?" But,
Yes.
hey, that's when ignorance is bliss. This one of those, like, "It's okay. He's good. I'm good. It's all good."
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because if you focus on that, you'll go crazy. You
Oh,
will go
absolutely.
crazy.
Absolutely.
But understand they are lifing. And
They
a
are
lot of that
lifing.
they are not going to tell
Mhm.
you, nor
No.
should they necessarily
It
need
would
to.
be for the best that they don't.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that, just trusting, and this is where, if you are, going to church, the Bible, the mosque, whatever the thing, this is the playground.
This
You've
is the
got to
playground.
trust and have faith that, you
Right.
know, and I'm saying this like, no, listen, every day, where's my Oracle cards? Let me pray, hold a will, you know,
Yeah,
protect them. I mean, I
that's
constantly
right.
have to do that, but
Same,
that's how it's helping me, you know,
same.
in my now work.
Yeah,
So.
I feel the same way.
So yeah, so we got some comments. Margot and Daria, damn you, I think your mom had to leave.
Oh, yeah, she had to
Um,
scoot out. Oh, yeah, Margot's I
yes.
just noticed that she's streaming from Facebook, so that's cool. Yeah,
Yes,
awesome.
yes. So if you're just joining us, we're gonna be wrapping up, but we always do. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Don't
Don't
leave
leave
yet. Because
yet.
I actually have a fun feature. It's something that I'm doing. I've got a lot of things coming up, so I want to make sure that I want y'all to join me. But
Okay.
Keyshawn, do you have a special something you want
I
to highlight?
do have something
Good.
to share. I was like, I'm so excited. I have something to share, and I don't know if Dawn is still on, but one of my friends who became a client, who became a friend, Dawn Rivers, her company Daybreak is actually hosting a Business of Wellness Summit, and it's a free online conference for women of color. And
Mm,
it's focused on teaching women how to become profitable, scalable business owners in the field of wellness, and it's June 8th through 11th. So you can find her at Daybreak Yoga on Instagram. You can find her at Dawn M Rivers on Instagram. I could potentially also the website, if you're interested in learning
yeah,
more about the
I
summit,
yeah.
is dawnmrivers.com/summit.
Oh gosh, let's see if I can put that down.
I know,
You said
dawnmrivers.com/summit. So, and the reason I wanted to share that is
rivers.com
slash
backslash.
summit, SUMMIT. And yes, it's a free online conference, which is really
Oh, we
cool.
both put it in. All right, good.
Okay, cool. Great. So it's a free online conference, and I have been invited to be one of the presenters for the conference. So I'm super excited about that. Super
Awesome.
grateful to be a part of it. And yeah, so again, it's happening in June. It's the second week of June. Well, technically the first week of June, June 8th through 11th. So if you want to register, you can register today, and I'll see you in June.
I love it. There's some good because I'm throwing a summit in June, but I'm not going to talk
Okay.
about that summit yet. But we will.
Okay.
'Cause
Okay.
we have gotten a beautiful flyer, and I mean, I'll do a little bit of a plug for it, but definitely, you guys, it's in the chat. DonMRivers.com/summit. Both Keisha and I put it in there, so grab that, and especially since it's free, like check
Yeah.
that out. So.
Yeah.
My big thing this weekend, this Sunday, I mentioned this before. I'm doing an astrology virtual meetup where we're going to be talking about your moon sign and how that relates to your mama, and your
Mm.
relationship with your mama, and what your mom was going through in raising
Mhm.
you, and what you were going through in being raised by mom, and why, you know, even more beyond just that, but also why your emotions, your moon sign is your emotions, it's your
Yeah.
body as well. And I listen, I can now tell you there is a way to look at the moon and know when your period, those of you who are still having periods,
Mm.
literally it coincides with a part of your chart, and I will
Yeah.
explain how you can look at that. So if you because this is not open to just 40 over or whatever, this is, you know,
Mhm.
so those who are still wanting to kind of understand the moon cycle and how that correlates to the body, there is literally that in the stars. So we're going to talk about
Mhm.
all that. It's going to be fun. And you know, we have only like a couple more spots because I'm keeping that limited
Small, right?
because we want to be able to hear people's their sun sign. So the way you can sign up, and the way that this is, it is a $10 holding fee. So basically, it's how you hold your space. And let me put it in here. And then you get your money back once you actually attend. So
Cool.
that is at astromeetup.eventbrite.com. And so
Okay.
by going there, you pay your little $10. I will be keeping track of who's in the room, and then, you know, we'll refund that back to you. Although if you're part of the Patreon, my Patreon community, which is patreon.com/finding your voice, you get in for free. You get a promo code, and all my
Mm.
events like this, you get in for free. So really excited. And during that, we'll also kind of announce, I have a really cool series that I am building that y'all want to know what kind of, those of you who are dating, want to know what kind of partner? You can look at the stars. Who are you drawn to? What kind of energy are you drawn? What they're into? It's in your chart. Also, if you want a lifelong, like marriage or partnered lifelong, that's in your chart too. Daddy issues, that's in your chart too. So all of that. So we're putting this whole series together to really on this whole idea of relationships and how those of you who are seeking partnership or those of you who want the partnership that you have to be stronger or to grow or to evolve, there's ways to astrologically look at that. It's kind of like we're looking at love languages and so forth.
Okay.
When we read all that, very similar, but looking more astrologically how you're wired, what you're drawn to, and what kind of your fate is with that. So check it out. Come and visit me. But my summit in June is going to be about the vajayjay.
Oh, that's a different type of conversation.
So we'll talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that after Mother's Day, after your event is this Sunday. People can sign up
May
via
7th.
Eventbrite, reserve their spot for $10. Don't ask for the refund. Just make the donation to Kenya. She deserves it. That's my plug.
Because if you don't come, we're going to keep it anyway.
We're going to keep your $10,
right?
But I think what you're going to offer is worth 100 times more than that. So definitely, if you're curious about, I think, what I've learned just even through my own study over the years of astrology has helped to fill in so many gaps along the way that I think it would be really valuable.
It's really magical. And, but we will be though, Mother's Day weekend. I'll be announcing more about the vajayjay. And then it's really called, I can just say it now, it's called the Healthy Vagina Monologues. But it's a summit, and we'll be hearing from holistic practitioners, including physicians, physical therapists, pleasure coaches, about everything from pleasure, sexual, libido, all the way to constipation, to incontinence, to perimenopause, to pain during sex. All of that is going to be a part of this summit. So we'll announce more how you can sign up, and we'll be starting to really market that. That's going to happen June 24th. So save the date. And the other big thing about that summit, it's at that summit that we'll be announcing the international retreat that I'm doing in 2024. So, so lots of fun stuff coming up.
Yay. That's good. That's exciting.
We'll just keep reminding y'all.
Yes, we will.
So anything else? Hi, Mishala. I saw she said hi, Kenya. I don't know if she's still here, but hi. We're gonna wrap up now. We're planning to be back next week, but don't be surprised. KEISEAN's baby is graduating, y'all, from Dillard University, and so his graduation is Mother's Day weekend.
Yes.
So we're planning to still meet next Thursday.
Yeah.
But life may change. So, but we're planning on being here. We don't know the topic.
Yeah. We don't know the topic yet, but we're planning on being here next Thursday.
Yes. And that thick, what we said, thick, fat, overweight, that topic, we are still planning to do a part 2 probably in June.
Yes.
That got a lot of comments and views.
It did. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a juicy one.
So
yeah.
All right, good people. Well, y'all have a good Thursday night. And KEISEAN, stay safe with the gnats. Don't let them take over.
I won't. Okay.
I'll talk to you. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.